Welcome to the Sharpe Way. So happy that you are here this evening. Yes, it is 7 p.m. on the East Coast. I'm here again. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. 3 shows this week. My next show will not be until Wednesday of next week, and that's because I'm going to be out campaigning across New York State starting tomorrow through Tuesday. So I will be out for the next 4 to 5 days, running around trying to get people to vote gold. Of course, that's what I do. So thank you so much for joining me today. And always like, comment, share. It does matter. Please click those like, love, hate, sad, hug, whatever buttons you can click. Put a comment on it. Let me know you're here. It does matter. I want algorithms to pop up and like and love us so that people will watch what we're talking about. Please do that. And of course, as I always tell you, do me a favor. Head on over to Facebook. If you don't like the Sharpe Way already, please go and like the Sharpe Way. And of course, if you want to, please head on to patreon.com/Sharpe Way and sponsor 10, 25, or $100 per month, whatever you can swing. If you can't swing any of that stuff, no worries. Like, comment, and share. Today, what I wanted to bring up was something that I hear constantly, and that is the idea that there must be a war on this or a war on that. But it isn't just a war on this or a war on that. We are perpetually at war in some way, shape, or form, both figuratively and literally, right? We have been almost at perpetual war overseas since 1945, right? We're still at war. We've had our troops overseas for 70 some odd years now, right? So we've been doing that forever. But there's another war that I'm actually more worried about. I am worried about that war, but I'm also worried about the war that we're having internally. American versus American. Every time an issue pops up, whatever that issue is, COVID, mail-in voting, insert thing here, whatever it is, it immediately picks a side. And then the side says, who likes that? Okay. I don't like them, therefore I don't like the issue. Boom. And many of these issues are issues that can be solved. I spoke to you in the past about this. I talked about the mail-in ballot, the mail-in voting issue last week. And I talked about the idea that, yeah, there are valid concerns on both sides, but it's a solvable problem. If we had thought about this 3 months ago, we could have absolutely had a very safe, quick, realistic, reliable system in place. It was possible using both private firms and the post office. It could have been done. It was a solvable problem, but we didn't do that. Why? It's a wedge issue. It allows us to be at war with each other. And why does that matter? Because once we're at war with each other, then we can dehumanize the enemy. And dehumanize them as in, if you're on the left, you use the word conservative, not as a descriptor, but as an insult. And if you're on the right, you use the word liberal, not as a descriptor, but as an insult. It's a one-word story that now I know exactly who you are. Oh, you're one of those liberals. Oh, you're one of those conservatives. Oh, I know who you are. I've now decided that you fit in my box. You're not a person. You're this thing I've now decided that you are. I can dehumanize you. I can do bad things. And now the ends, the means are justified by the ends. Well, we're at war, so I can lie. We're at war. It doesn't matter if it's ethical. We're at war. Why do you care about morality? This is a war for the soul of America. This is a battle for the heart of America. And the other, whether you're liberal or conservative, is always the enemy. And it never ends. It's perpetual war. And I want to bring up a book that was written like 50, 60 years ago and show you what I mean. This is a scene from the movie 1984, right? Obviously, the book was written before the book. The movie came out, I think, in 1984. That's when the movie came out. The book obviously was written earlier. Was it 50s? I think the book was written in the 50s. I'm pretty sure it's 50s, but it might not be, but I believe it was. And it's a quick piece from it. I want you to listen if you can. I'll voice over it a little bit so you can get what I'm talking about.
In accordance with the principles of doublethink.
The principles of doublethink.
It does not matter if the war is not real.
It doesn't matter if the war is not real.
Victory is not possible.
It doesn't matter if victory is not possible.
The war is not meant to be won.
The war is not meant to be won.
Continuous.
It's meant to be continuous.
The essential act of modern warfare is the destruction of the produce of human labor.
It is the destruction of the produce of human labor.
The hierarchy of society is only possible on the basis of poverty and ignorance.
Poverty and ignorance.
In principle, the war effort is always planned to keep society on the brink of starvation.
Keeps us on the brink of starvation.
The war is waged by the ruling group against its own subjects.
The war is waged by the ruling group against its own subjects. This is a book written 60, 70 years ago now, from a movie from 30 years ago, and it's what I'm talking about. We stay at war so we can validate bad behavior. The first step to doing things that are illegal, immoral, unethical, whatever the case may be, is validating that bad behavior. And what's the easiest way? War. What has made cops do things they shouldn't do? What has made prosecutors do things they shouldn't do? War on drugs. What has made soldiers, Marines, sailors do things they shouldn't do? War on terror. What has made government do things it shouldn't do by spying on us and putting us in jail? War on terror. What has made government do bad things and people do bad things in our own country, in our poor neighborhoods? War on poverty. Every time there's a war on something that excuses bad behavior, that excuses things because it's a war on this, so we've got to do these things. Let's break the Constitution. Why? We're at war. Let's destroy our rights. Why? We're at war. And if the population believes it's at war, then the population actually begs to have its rights removed. You've heard me say this 1,000 times, and I'll keep saying it. In America, it's rare that government just takes rights. It does, but it's rare. Usually, we eagerly beg for it. We say, please take our rights away. Protect us from the war. What's the most recent one? The invisible enemy. The war on COVID. And all the things the government did, and we begged them to do, particularly in New York, in my state, we begged them to do these things because it's a war. Protect us. The war on COVID. Every time we're at war, every time it's a war, it's an excuse, a way to validate bad behavior. We've got to stop this. It's the wrong answer. We're fighting ourselves. It's really bad. Let me grab a couple of comments. So we go through, but I got a couple of things I want to show you too. Yes. This is where we are after years of normalizing violence towards people with which you had disagreements. Yes. Yes, absolutely. This has become the norm. It's been okay to be mean, right? It's been okay to be bad. Yes, years. This isn't like last year. You know, people who hate Trump want to blame Trump like he's the one who did it. Don't get me wrong. He jumped on board too, right? He's not innocent here either. He didn't start this, please. No, he jumped on board too. Obama was doing it too. This isn't a Trump thing. It is Trump. And it's Obama, and it's all the rest of them. I mean, I think, as I mentioned before, it was probably most obvious since Nixon. That's when it was most obvious. It was before Nixon, but I think Nixon made it the most obvious at the presidential level. And I think Newt Gingrich made it the most obvious in the congressional level. And then recently, Obama, with his second term, he was all about the other is not us. This is about Democrats, not Republicans. And then Trump doubled down. So they're all guilty of this. You are completely right, Fenris. They're all guilty. Absolutely. So see you in Syracuse. Yes, I will be there. Absolutely. Yes. Go for gold. Absolutely. We're working our way to do it. Yes. Yes. All right. Let's see here. Hi, Larry. Are you planning to do any campaigning outside of New York, supporting whom, where, when? At the moment, no, Jason. At the moment, I'm focusing heavily on my state. For those who don't know, New York State, we've been attacked because of ballot access issues, and we're going to have to get about 160,000 votes this year, give or take. We have to get either 130,000 votes in a statewide election or 2%, whichever is higher. I don't know how many people are going to vote this year. Up to 8 million might vote. If that many vote, we need 160,000 votes. If less than that vote, we need 130,000 in that area. So I'm going to be spending most of my time in New York trying to get people to see the value of voting gold. That's where I'll be going. So got Tokyo in the house again. I appreciate that. Yes, it's got to be like 7 a.m. in the morning over there, guy. I love it. I'm glad that you're jumping on board. I appreciate it. Yes. The United States has been at war 93% of its time. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Larry, I don't mean to beat a dead horse or vent where I shouldn't. So I apologize if somebody cause a problem. Not sure what you've done. Okay. We'll see. I'll keep going down. Divide and conquer, James. You are correct. Yes, it is absolutely divide and conquer. And it works. That's the sad part. It does work again and again and again. Tommy, the problem is government has to fight everything with a damn war. Yep. Government has turned to a war mindset. War on drugs, education, Iraq, Kuwait, World War I, World War II have been at war since I was born. Yes, I love and Tommy, when you're always at war, the only answer is violence. Yes. And war is a racket. Absolutely. Until the Constitution and the rights and liberties are accepted as the American way, there will be a continuation of destruction of our constitutional republic. Yes. And the funny thing is, you're saying until there's no constitution, no republic. I agree, James. And the worst part is the odds are the majority of the American people will eagerly accept it. We will actually beg for it. This will not be like, oh, let's have a violent coup with tanks in the streets. We're going to beg for it. And I see it happening already in New York. I mean, New York City already is at a point to where there's food shortages, long lines already. We are on our way to being Venezuela already. And people are like, yeah, but Trump bad. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. There are so many issues facing us right now. It's hard to even begin to start finding what to prioritize. A valid point, Brent. There is a lot of stuff at us. We have low wages to the point that we consider the equivalent of minimum wage in the 60s. $15 an hour is equivalent to minimum wage in the 60s if you consider inflation. Okay, I'll buy that. I don't know that, but I'll buy that to be a good job. We have an unaffordable healthcare system. Yep. An unaffordable university system. Yep. 2 justice systems, one for the rich, one for everyone else. Yes. We have a school system that is still stuck in the 50s. Yes, yes, and yes. And the one thing that I will bring up on all of those things, all run by government. Everything you mentioned, all run by government. If you pull government out of all of those, you find things change. In every one of those, healthcare system, look at the secondary healthcare system, meaning the non-essential healthcare system that's heavily not run by government. In every case, prices have calmed down, but accessibility has gone up, services have gotten better. Online schools, servicing has gotten better, pricing has come down. Everything that's not government run has gotten better. Not perfect, but I mean, the market is by no means perfect. I'm not one of those guys who says the free market's magic. Not saying that. Better? Yes. Evidence is in on that one. It is definitely better. So thank you for that. That's why war needs to end. Yes, it does. Absolutely. Yes. Sounds like Holmes wants war again. He does. I'm going to bring him up in a minute. Rhonda, thank you for that. You stole some of my thunder, but that's okay. I am going to bring that up. Absolutely. That is part of it. Yes. Quoting from a popular 70s song, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yes. 100%. Yes. Let's see if I keep going down here. Larry, I've had in the last week been called a commie and just outright had my name slandered, called a pedophile or victim of the cult. When I refused to revel in the death of the pedophile who Kyle Rittenhouse killed. I'm tired of these stupid Fs. These are not only libertarian a-holes. These are self-righteous moral authoritarians who are a threat because I don't know how far this little will go with their moral authoritarianism with little Yeah. Yes. That's what you meant by beating that horse. No, that's a horse that might need to be beaten, even though it's dead. I'm with you completely. All we can do, Jonathan, I can't force those people to not be the self-righteous jerks that they are. And they are self-righteous jerks. And they come from both the left, the right, and libertarians all over. There's a lot of libertarians who are that way. There really are. You are right. And most of it is a desire to be respected. All we can do is do the right thing ourselves, try our best to show the right example, and hope that people begin to follow it. I agree with you. I'm on board with it. I showed it again because you're right. I agree with it. Absolutely. Yes. So I want to grab one more piece that is from the same movie. I mean, I actually watched the movie with my daughter. She actually read the book, and then we watched the movie. And she actually, it's funny, most people enjoy the book better than the movie. My daughter actually enjoyed the movie better than the book. So maybe it's age. She's a teenager, so maybe that's what it was. But this is a part where it is the part where they're doing the 2 minutes of hate every day, right? The 2 minutes of hate every day. And some of you remember this piece. It's a way of keeping the people angry because people don't want to be at war perpetually. We naturally want to fall back to security and the normal way of having our lives. Is what humans want to do. But so if you don't want to do that, you have to find a way of doing that. How do you do that? By making us angry forever.
But even as we grasp at victory, there's a cancer, an evil tumor.
An evil tumor.
Spreading in our midst.
In our midst. Who is it?
Shout! Shout!
It's the bad guy. Now, just imagine if this is a Republican group, it's shout the name, socialism or Bernie. If it's Democrats, Trump, get him, right? Just you can imagine that this is just Democrats yelling Trump or Republicans yelling socialism or Bernie or whomever. I don't know if Republicans really hate Biden as much as they hate socialism, or they hate Bernie more, I think. I mean, if Republicans will tell me if they hate Biden that much, I don't really know. Now, is this every Democrat? No. Is this every Republican? No, of course not. Is it a core group? Yes. There is a core group of Democrats and a core group of Republicans who are just like this, and they will affect a lot of people. To Jonathan's point, there's a core group of Libertarians who are just as mean against everybody. Like, I wish this was just Democrats or Republicans. That would be if it was just them. It's a lot of groups, but this is how you feel like you're perpetual war. If you don't keep stoking the fire, if you don't keep stoking the hatred, people will stop. Humans aren't that hateful naturally. We just aren't. We aren't that racist naturally. We aren't that hateful. It's not what humans are. Humans are tribal. You hear me say that all the time. We all know we're tribal, right? We are. But tribalism doesn't necessarily mean war, doesn't mean hatred. We can be tribal and still want to trade with other tribes or marry within tribes and make our tribes bigger. That happens all the time, has happened throughout the history of humanity. But hatred, racism, civil war has to be stoked. And this is from a book from 70 years ago, a movie from 30 years ago, and it's still true today. You can watch the rallies of both parties and watch them rile the other up. Got an orange man bad. Socialism will kill us. Get them. That's this. Absolutely. Yell and scream. You put the hat on, yell at the other guy. But the problem in this case, and if you've watched the movie, you know what I'm talking about. What is the government in this case, or what is their side? What is their side offering them? Nothing. They live in poverty in the movie. They live terribly. They live in fear all the time. They live horribly. But they're not being taken over by the other. All they promise them is, we'll stop you from being taken over by the other. They're at war forever. The other is always out there, but just keeps people in check. This is where we're going if we aren't already there. How do we stop it? This goes to Jonathan's point. Jonathan, I'm glad you brought this up. It does land here. Are we going to be angry at them? And yeah, Republicans bad, Democrats bad, right? As I've been mentioning this week more than once, one of the biggest reasons why people get angry at me is because I won't hate their enemy, right? I won't say Trump's evil, Bernie's evil, insert non-libertarians evil. I just won't do it. And there's many reasons why I won't do it. First off, I don't believe any of them are evil. I don't believe it. So that's the first reason why I won't do it. But the second reason is it's not helpful in getting people to see my side of the story. if I call Biden evil or Trump evil, whoever likes Biden or Trump is not going to hear me and have no chance of hearing my side of the story. If I just go, hey, I like them and don't like them, and here's the reasons why. It's their policy. They can be right and they can be wrong, which is the truth. They can both be right and be wrong. When I say these things, all of a sudden now people can hear me. And I want them to hear me. That's the issue. But when they're yelling and screaming, they can't. So the two parties are to blame. Their time should be up by now. I agree. I wish it was. Yes. Is New York State possibly not democratic, but rather authoritarian? Yes. And this is the funny part, right? If you look at, as I say all the time, Cuomo versus DeBlasio. For those of you who know that I live in New York State, I have DeBlasio, a terrible mayor in my city, and I have Cuomo, a terrible governor, as my governor. But they're different people. What I mean by that is DeBlasio to this day, and some of you may have heard this, there are some wealthy areas of New York. One of them is the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Some of you who've been in New York may know that. That's a relatively wealthy part of New York City. And that area, de Blasio, literally to save or protect homeless population in New York, which is bigger and bigger and bigger, he actually put them in hotels in the Upper West Side. These are luxury hotels. It's a wealthy area. Yes, he put homeless people in wealthy hotels. Taxpayers paid for that. Now, this is a wealthy area. Well, the wealthy area obviously has high property taxes. Why? Because homeless people usually aren't there. Now, there are homeless people there. They're taking pictures of them. Many of the homeless population, those of you who work with it, there is a high percentage compared to the non-homeless population that has mental illness, mental problems, drug addiction, chemical dependencies, all types of issues that are not being dealt with as they're sitting in a hotel. Now, to be clear, a bunch of people homeless are also working poor. I'm saying by percentage, right? There's a larger percentage of people who have chemical dependencies, who have a drug addiction, who have mental issues, a higher percentage. Well, now those people are literally outside in the wealthier areas of New York. And what do you think the people are doing now? They're leaving. Now, what do you think a mayor would do? Well, if you're Cuomo, not de Blasio, Cuomo says, guys, please stay. Not de Blasio. He doubles down. He insults them. He says, why don't you care? Help me to make this city more communist, more socialist, and it'll be better. De Blasio actually believes all the hype. He's a true believer. He believes just one more gulag and we'll be perfect. Just one more law and we'll finally have socialist utopia. He actually believes it. He doubled down. Yes, didn't say no. And these are wealthy people. You would think he'd see, oh no, so sorry. But not Cuomo. Cuomo's absolutely an authoritarian. He wants to keep his base. Cuomo's not actually a Democrat. I mean, he is by label a Democrat, but he's a Cuomoist. That's what he actually is. He would be any party as long as he'd get elected. He doesn't care, right? De Blasio's an actual Democrat, an actual socialist. He is a true believer. That he believes it's right. He's gonna go to his grave doing this, thinking these rich people just didn't get it. This time socialism would have worked. What's wrong with them? He'll go to the grave doing that. Cuomo will do whatever it takes to win. So I would say yes, absolutely, it's true. New York is authoritarian, not democratic, because Cuomo is a Cuomoist. He's not actually a Democrat. He doesn't really care what the policies are. That's irrelevant, as long as he can be in charge. Patriot Act, Affordable Health Care Act, both acts to increase government power over the people. Yes, there are a lot of people who used to get mad at me, James, and would say, Larry, you're wrong. You're worried about people being scared. We got to scare people. We got to shake them up and show them this and show them that. This goes back to Jonathan's point. We got to be this way. No, we don't. People who are afraid make bad decisions. The Patriot Act is a perfect example of that. Affordable Care Act, perfect example of that. When people are afraid, they make bad decisions. Absolutely. Yes. So Buffalo could use some more libertarians. Yes, it could. Absolutely. Yes. Government is the only place war is legitimate. Pirates of the coast of Somalia aren't viewed as legitimate, but the war on terror is. Good point. Yep. How do you see the continuation of riots playing out? I think the riots are going to stop in the next week or two. And the reason is the polling has shown that people are getting tired of them. And while Democrats are Democrats, most are not like DeBlasio. Most are not true believers. Most are opportunists. And when they see things beginning to fail, they'll begin to crack down. They'll either let their police force do the job and get in, or they'll allow Trump to bring in troops, or they'll finally talk to their people. They'll do something to stop it. They're going to have to. Otherwise, they're going to lose their seats. I think that's what's going to happen. And I wish it wasn't a political issue, but it is. So I think the riots are going to end in about a week or two, probably right before or maybe a month before the election. And then each mayor or governor will take credit for it, right? It'll be, Trump did it, but I saved us. It'll be that, right? I think they'll do that, which, again, people believe what they want to believe. And if you want to believe that Democrats are better, you're going to believe that they saved it. If you don't want to believe it, then you won't. So I think that's a critical thing. I hope that's clear. So, again, we all agree that Cuomo was a nightmare. What I don't hear is what we can do to limit New York City putting him back in office. We can't beat the city. We have been trying for decades. This is not true, Spencer. It's not true. It's not just the city. It is the city, but it's all the cities. Remember, not only New York City votes blue. Syracuse votes blue. Buffalo votes blue. Albany votes blue. Utica votes blue. Ithaca votes blue. So it isn't only New York City. What most people don't realize in New York City, it's a story that's been told. And Spencer, I hope you tell this story to your friends. The story's been told that you can't beat New York City, and many people who are in upstate New York have heard that and now think, why bother? It's one of the reasons why turnout is so low. There have been certain years where in certain districts in upstate New York where only 1 in 6 people registered to vote actually voted. 1 in 6. Our average turnout's about 30 to 40%, particularly upstate. Now, why do I say that? While New York City does have 8.5 million people, that's true. 1/3 of New York City residents aren't born in the country. Another 1/3 aren't born in the city. Most people in New York City can't vote and don't vote. If you look at the actual numbers, give or take, New York City never puts out more than 2 million votes. There's 10 million registered voters in New York State. New York City isn't that powerful, but the belief that it is gets so many people upstate New York to just give up and not vote. Spencer, tell them their vote matters. Not just that, stop having people in Syracuse and Rochester vote the same way. So it isn't only New York City. It is, but it's not only New York City. Upstate New York can beat New York City if people get out and vote. They often don't, but don't just blame New York City. It is also Syracuse. It's also Albany. It's all of them. So all of those things count together. So I hope that was clear in answering your question. I think that's how you do it, right? But it's something else. You've got to vote gold. I know I'm a broken record, but I'm going to tell you, Spencer, a Republican in a statewide election, obviously locally Republicans can win, but in a statewide election, Republicans can't win. It is impossible in New York State. Other states, obviously. New York State, impossible. The people who are leaving, many of them would be voting against Cuomo. They're not going to live here anymore. They're going to live in North Carolina. They're going to live in Florida. So the state's going to wind up going 3-1 Democrat to Republican. Not going to happen. But will Democrats vote for Libertarians? Yes. We've proven that multiple times. Data is all over the place. 2014, 2016, 2018, all of them. We've proven that they will vote for Libertarian. So the answer, Spencer, is let people of the state know their vote does count if they get out and do it. They just don't. And again, don't just believe me. Do your own homework. You will find everything I said is true. Upstate New York does not vote like it should, and New York City only at max gets about 2 million votes out. That's it. 10 million registered voters in New York State. New York City cannot control the state if the rest of the state gets up and votes. I hope that was clear. All right. People in power want to increase their influence, spread fear. Yes, 100% true. Yes. What can we do to combat the debate commission on leaving Joe and Howie off the polls? Nothing. You can just be more popular. That's all that matters. I know people ask me this almost every show, and I hate being Debbie Downer. I've been through this. I'll say it again and again and again. If they won't let us in debates, to hell with debates. To hell with them. Be more popular, go out there and get more votes. That's the answer. They're not going to be in. And then here's what I'm saying. Let's say we win a lawsuit or the commission decides we're going to put Joe and Howie in the debates. I'm telling you, I know this. Trump is not going to show up. Why would he? Wait, they're punching up. He's not going to show up. His enemy is Biden. And if Trump's not there, why is Biden going to show up? They're punching up. His enemy's Trump. They only want to fight each other. We just get in the way for them. They're not going to show up, in which case there's no debate. But of course, is Fox or CNN or MSNBC going to give up all that revenue? No. They're going to have a special town hall with Democrat and Republican. We're not getting in anyway. The only way we get in is if we are popular enough to where the media and the people want to see us, and the media thinks that they will actually get a bunch of people to watch. That's it. That's the way we do it. Be more popular. If Kanye West actually runs a real campaign, I don't think it's real, but I could be wrong. If he runs a real campaign, he'll be in debates if they have debates. Why? Because people want to see him. That's why. If people don't want to see Joe and Howie, be more popular. That's the answer. I know it sounds harsh. It sounds unfair because it is unfair. And that's how it works. I know when they came to me in New York State for the debates, my team knows this. I didn't ask to be in debates. I didn't ask. It's like, you don't want me? Go take a hike. And they came to me. And they said, well, you know what? Come to be in a debate. I was in 3 debates. One of them was the official League of Women Voters debate. I got in that debate. I was there. So was Howie Hawkins, because he was running against me then, right? He was there. Cuomo, my governor, didn't show up. When he didn't show up, not on TV. So I won 3 debates, and no one saw them except for the people who were there because none were televised. That's what will happen again. So this is useless. The commission is irrelevant. It means nothing. I've been saying this for days. People like to let her speak thing. I still jump on board when they ask me to. I still help out when they ask me to. It's useless. If it makes you feel good, let's jump on it. It just makes it look weak. My answer is you don't want me in your debates? Your debates suck. Have a nice day. That's how I dealt with it when it was me, and I got in debates. And Cuomo didn't show up, which is why would he? If I was Cuomo, I wouldn't have shown up. I don't blame him. That's how it works. So I know it's not fair, but you'll hear me often say this. If you're going to run third party, you have to accept that you are running a race unfairly. If you can't handle that, don't run. It will be unfair, and there will be no recourse. That's how it works. Accept that or don't run. Hold on. That's not for me. Sorry. Does become a Cuomo over if Andy Boy starts to go bold. Very nice. I like that. Good. DeBlasio stated that he believes COVID vaccine will end violence in New York City. How does this make any logical sense? Again, James, it's not logical. He is an ideologue. He's a true believer. He's an ideologue. It doesn't matter. It will work because it works. Why don't you believe in socialism, James? What's wrong with you? That's how he feels. De Blasio is a true believer. This is makes total sense with his mindset. If you get who he is, that makes total sense. That's exactly why it might work. Yes. The riots might end in 2 to 4 weeks, but we'll start back up in about a month after the election. Agreed, David. I think you're totally right. Again, there will be sporadic violence. Whoever wins, and I am not prepared to. I thought Trump wasn't going to win the Republican nomination. I was so wrong. So I was way wrong. And the polls said he wasn't going to win the election. So they were wrong. So I have no idea who's going to win. If Biden crushes Trump, I won't be surprised. If Trump crushes Biden, I won't be surprised. If either one ekes out a victory, I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised no matter what happens. All I'm telling you is you should vote gold. See, there we go. That's my message. Vote gold. Whatever. Vote gold. People need to come out and vote. Yes, James, you're correct. 100% true. Yes, 100%. All right. So I keep grabbing. All right. That's only true. Okay, that's not for me. I apologize, guys. Not for me. All right. Why don't we hear many, not all protesters asking for specifics like ending qualified immunity, no narcotics, etc.? Many don't seem to have specific demands. You know, when it was George Floyd, when that was the issue about people getting out there and protesting, I felt like we had something. I did. I felt like people like Rand Paul with the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act to end no-knock raids. I feel like people like Justin Amash with his ending qualified immunity. I had a warm, fuzzy feeling. When I came up with my plan, right, my quick plan to solve things, I felt good about it. I thought we had a good shot at making change. I really did. I was wrong. The protests are now falling into Occupy Wall Street mode, which is we're just mad. Occupy Wall Street was a colossal waste of time, just a colossal waste of time and money. They had no, as you said, they had no specifics, no plan, no leadership, no nothing. It was a colossal waste of time. That's all it was. It changed nothing. It changed nothing. If they don't come up with something, Josh, some real leadership, some real policies, some real answers, this is going to turn into Occupy Wall Street, which will wind up being a colossal waste of time. I hope that they do come up with something. The problem is you're finding that the BLM organization is beginning to dominate a lot of the protests, and their goals aren't the same goals, right? They don't have their goal. The BLM movement, their individual goals, the organization, their goals aren't any of these things, really. It really isn't. So I wish the movement had picked up these goals. So far, it hasn't. If you remember, I was saying it would have been a good idea if they could have changed the name of the movement to make it separate from the organization. That has not happened. Josh, I'm with you. I'm disappointed. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I just think that in the future, the local people who are winning, local gold and libertarians who are going to be winning coming up here, I hope they're able to take whatever pieces from the Rand Paul bill and the Justin Amash bill to put it together locally to fix it. I hope they can. That is my hope, that they will actually make that happen. And at least the ideas are out. The concept, I mean, you're talking about ending qualified immunity. You're talking about ending no-knock raids. We are talking about it. That's something. I can hope that in the long run, it'll be valuable. So I'm hoping. So, all right. Let me grab a couple more if I could. Let's see. She was kept off the polls because Republicrats are scared of her getting support. That's true, Ramunda. That's true. They are concerned. They're not worried about Jo Jorgensen winning. They don't think she can win, but they do think she can pull enough votes to affect the election. They are scared of that. I'm not saying she can or can't win. This doesn't look like it now, obviously, because the polling doesn't look that way. But again, I was wrong about everything in the past, so who knows? I'm telling you what they're thinking. They are not afraid of her winning. They are afraid of her taking enough votes from one or the other and deciding the election. That's for sure. And if you look at what happened in 2016, there were many states that were really tight. And, you know, they think that she might control either one of those, which is an issue completely. Absolutely. All right. Yes, and qualified immunity. The establishment don't have the guts. Yeah, agreed. Yes. All right. They had leadership at Occupy Wall Street. Michael Moore. Was he really a leader of Occupy Wall Street? Andrew, I don't think Michael Moore, unless you're teasing me. I don't know if you're teasing me or not. He was a celebrity who was there supporting them. Was he really leading the charge for some change? I don't remember that if he was. So if he was ineffective, because I don't remember I don't remember him being an actual leader. I remember him being a celebrity endorser, if that makes sense. I don't remember that. Yeah. Okay. So let me grab the other piece, which really bothered me. Maybe it shouldn't have, but it didn't. It bothered other people. This is Cuomo's quote. Some of you may know Cuomo's quote as he, you know, basically, I'm sorry, you like to let us speak thing? Yes. Cuomo's speech, and this is from CNN. Now, CNN is as pro Cuomo as they get, but even CNN was a little taken aback by this.
President Trump has actively been trying to kill New York City ever since he's been elected.
Now, that in itself is not crazy, right? People say stuff like that, right? Oh, he's trying to destroy it. But here's the part that is disturbing.
It really does speak volumes about him. Changed his residence to go to Florida. Why? He can't come back to New York. He can't. He's going to walk down the street in New York.
I mean, is this appropriate? Look, I'm not a PC guy, you know that, but I try not to be a jerk. I try never to threaten violence in any way, shape, or form. I try never to do that. This guy's a governor.
Forget bodyguards. He better have an army.
He does have an army. He's the commander in chief. He's got an army, a navy, air force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. He actually does. So, yeah.
If he thinks he's going to walk down the street in New York.
Now, watch the response from CNN anchors, right? This is CNN people who are as pro-Cuomo as you can get, right? If you know CNN, I mean, Cuomo's brother is an anchor on CNN, right? So they're as pro-Cuomo as you can get.
Now, seems irresponsible for a governor of any state to be raising the suggestion of physical harm to the president.
He can't even speak. He's like, what? Of course, you really shouldn't be doing that. He's right. He's right. Could you imagine if I said something like this? YouTube would take me down. There'd be Secret Service people knocking on my door. I'd do a perp walk in front of my family and friends in Queens. Are you kidding me?
But nevertheless, this is an order the president's issued. It looks like a campaign document, very unlikely to be vindicated in court when the jury.
Well, see, there's the point. There's so many reasons why this is bad. And it becomes okay back from what I said, right? This is war. This is war. Therefore, the governor can insult the president. He's another warlord fighting my war. I can threaten him because we're at war. Of course I can. But in reality, well, several things. One, for those who don't know, the federal government gives New York City about $7 billion every year. Yes, $7 billion every year for things like housing and schools and cops and stuff like that. $7 billion. I know. You're like, how is that possible? And the best part is New York City's budget, already $90 billion. 90, not 19 billion, 90 billion. Is that crazy? I know. It's bigger than most states. So the New York State, the federal government gives about $7 billion, give or take, to New York City. And so Trump is saying, I'm going to defund you. I'm not going to give you $7 billion. Now, the funny part about this is, to what the CNN anchor said, the odds are the courts aren't going to let him do that. Probably not. It's probably a threat. It's a campaign threat, which is fine. It's what you do. I get it. I don't like it. I don't like the threat, but I get it. So now Cuomo says, oh, let me double down, and said that if you come to New York City, you might get beat up. You might not live. What? And it's not New York State. Many people upstate New York, to be clear, many people in New York City don't like Trump, hate Trump. That's true. That's an accurate statement. Many people in New York City hate Trump. But not everyone in New York City hates Trump. The New York City cops just endorsed him. So the cops probably would be happy to defend Trump. They just endorsed him. So I'm assuming that they would, right? So, and New York City just took $1 billion from the police force. So I'm not sure what he's saying is 100% accurate, but a lot of people in New York City absolutely hate Trump. That's 100% accurate. You go upstate, though, not the same. But what bothered me tremendously is that this is now the norm. This is the norm now. This is the norm. I thought that our country wasn't that way. I was wrong. I thought that we couldn't go there, right? This is what happens in Venezuela and the Philippines and places like that, where they threaten to blow Russia, where they poison, their adversaries. We're going there. We're going there. In New York City now, we have food shortages. We have long lines for everything, lines around the corner for everything. That's what's happening now. Food prices are going up. Businesses are closed everywhere. Everywhere we go, businesses are closed. Here, all gone. Gone for good. Boarded up stuff here in New York City. Upper West Side now filled with homeless people. That's happening to my city. And now I got my governor threatening to beat up the president or whatever he's threatening violence on the president. That's not the next thing. Don't get me wrong. If I had a choice who was president, it wouldn't be Trump and it wouldn't be Hillary. It would have been Gary Johnson. So I'm no fan of Trump. I'm no fan of Hillary. I don't want either of them to be president. I would have rather had Gary. And you guys will laugh, ha ha, Gary Johnson. Here's what I promise you. If Gary Johnson was president now, he, by the way, said up front, on record, it is unconstitutional what the government did to businesses and to people. He said that up front, just like I did. Why? He's libertarian. Of course he thinks that way. Off the bat. We wouldn't be in all the foreign wars. There wouldn't be this back and forth. There wouldn't be this vitriol. We'd be solving problems. We'd be solving problems. Was he perfect? Nope. Would he have made mistakes? Yes. Would we be solving problems? Yes. And the wedge issue piece? And if there was COVID now, here's what I promise you what Gary Johnson would have done. He would have found a way early how to make mail-in voting actually work safely and securely, and he would have thought of that 6 months ago when we could have actually set up a system where everyone would have been satisfied. Could have done that. So, angry all day. Gary Johnson still, but wish he was president. We'd be in a better spot now if he was the president. Anyway, I've yapped away on this piece. I just want to keep going. I'm sorry, yes. Ross Perot had some momentum in the 90s. Yes, absolutely. Particularly during his first run for president. Do you think the Libertarian Party could build on that outsider model to include in debates? Remember, he got in the debates because there was no Congress commission on presidential debates. In fact, they were set up to keep Perot out for the future. That was the reason, right? That was created to ensure another Perot doesn't happen again. That's why they made it, because you're right, Perot did have some momentum. But the second thing Perot had was he was literally a billionaire. And he was funny and popular. Even if you didn't like him. I happen to like Perot, but a lot of people didn't like Perot. But he was funny and popular, and people wanted to see him. If you remember what he said, he goes, we'll have 3 debates if you want to, and I'm paying the bills. That was his words. I'm paying the bills because he's wealthy. So that's if Kanye West wants to run, he can do 3 debates and he'll pay the bills. So that's how that works. So yes, it's not the same. I don't think we can build on that, Ken. I think that ship for us has sailed. We have to have someone who is popular enough to where people want to see them, right? That's the issue. I think us becoming more popular, doing the right thing, with more people want to see us is our answer. I don't see another answer. If you do, I'm open to another answer. I'm happy to be wrong, but I feel like there is no other answer. That's it. All right. Andrew and Chris Cuomo, either the Dumb and Dumber brothers or Beavis and Butthead brothers. I can't tell which is which. Yes. No, the reality of it is the Cuomo family, and there was a tape that just came out recently for Chris Cuomo on how he's talking negatively about women and how he's, think he's the cool guy. They're a bunch of self-righteous jerks. That's who they are. That's who they are. And people love them, but they are. Yes. Simple solution, shove them all back in a burlap sap like a screaming bag of cats and set it on fire. I see now, Jonathan, you're going down that road too. No, let's not go down that road. Let's not go down the violence piece. Yes. 90 billion and people and businesses are fleeing New York. James, that is my biggest problem. My biggest problem is how are you going to fill that gap of $90 billion when the wealthy people who pay the most taxes are leaving and not coming back? I said again, and not coming back. So all the businesses and organizations that support those people, tourist city, cultural tourism, right? Because I think Broadway will eventually come back. I think the opera will come back. Ballet, I think, will come back. Classical music will come back. I believe it will. I could be wrong, but I can't see any other place having the infrastructure and history in this area to be able to absorb that. And people are still going to want that cultural stuff. So I think it'll be a cultural and also a historical Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, right? It'll be that kind of tourist city, but that's not a $90 billion city. That's more like a $45 billion city. How do you respond to that? How do you deal with that? Right? That's not an 8.5 million person city. That's a 4 million person city. That's a different issue. It's not the same. You hit a valid point. I don't know how we fix this yet. Well, I know how we fix it, right? I already know how to fix it. I've already talked about this. The answer, believe it or not, is cryptocurrency. I know people think I'm nuts when I say it, but there's no other answer except bankruptcy. And it is my view, and I'm saying it now. I'm saying it up front. I predict this stuff early, and I'll predict it again. I've been right so far on almost every one of these predictions I've made about New York State. And I'll say it right now. If Cuomo wins election in 2022, in 2023, he takes the state to bankruptcy. There's no other way of getting around it. He can't pay these bills. He can't pay it. You're totally right, James. He can't pay these bills. It's impossible. He takes the state through bankruptcy and blames Trump for everything. In fact, if you heard what he said recently, Cuomo literally said, he said, New York City got ambushed by COVID because of Trump. That's the reason. So all his bad decisions, because Trump. That's why. Always someone else's fault. Always someone else's fault. All right. At what point do we just march to his address and remove him from where he sits? We don't. Doing that is going to get you put in jail and or shot or put in the hospital or the morgue. All bad ideas. We don't do that, Eric. It's a bad idea. We just get people to believe he needs to leave, and then we vote him out. That's what we do. Let's vote him out. I do not want to go to violence. It's just not going to work well. Yes. Imagine a Republican governor saying the same thing about a Democrat president. As Larry Elder might say, the fit would hit the shan. I like that. That's good. Yes. Yes. We can't continue to deficit spend. We are going to become insolvent. Cliff, yes, that's what I'm saying. I think in 2023, he takes us through bankruptcy. I can't see another way of doing it unless through cryptocurrency. What I mean by cryptocurrency is you have to create a New York State coin to start paying debts internally through the coin. The coin will then gain some value internally. You use the dollars to pay off the debt and the coin to run the government, which I know is very controversial. I get it. But if you can give me another answer, James, if you got one, I'm all ears. And I'm not joking. You guys know, if you got ideas, I am all in. The only idea I can come up with right now, cryptocurrency to pay internal bills, dollars to pay debt over the course of time. Doing that, you can get rid of the income tax eventually. You can also pay off our debt eventually. It's probably a 10-year plan for all of that is my assumption. That's a guess on that. I'm not sure. If you also can then negotiate the pensions out of the budget into the market, that also is a paying people out, right? You have too many people that we have to keep paying who aren't paying money into the system. You got to pay them out somehow. Otherwise, what people don't realize, and I talked about this in 2017 and 2018, if we don't come up with this plan, the pensions are going away. Let me be clear. I'm going to give you another example what's going to happen. When he goes bankrupt, he's going to take all the pensions and cut them in half at least, or just end them. He's just going to end the pensions. And then people have to apply for pension insurance. That's about 30 cents on a dollar. If you're getting a New York State pension, or we're planning on one, 30 cents on the dollar. Now, while that's bad for someone who's still working, it's bad. But at least if you're still working, you can replan, rechange, rethink. But what if you're already retired? You live in North Carolina or Florida, and you are counting on, because you agreed and you to a $250,000 a year pension. That's what you're getting. Your lifestyle's $250,000 a year. Overnight, that's $70,000, $80,000 a year. Overnight. Changes your lifestyle tremendously. Overnight. And when I say overnight, it will be overnight. It'll be, we don't have any money. Stop. Pension insurance. Good luck. That's what will happen. My plan, which I talked about earlier, was the idea of actually negotiating our way out, getting some payments, and then shifting them into the private market, so that you're not getting hammered. That you actually can, look, I'm not a fan of pensions at all, but there's a big but here. We did promise, right? It's a contract we made. We can't just go, no, it's not going to work, right? Unless we run out of money, which is what he's going to do. He's going to run out of money. So there's no money. Pensions go away. He's going to blame Trump and take us through bankruptcy. Cliff, you're correct. I see that completely. I live in Arizona. I do not want to pay for rebuilding those burned out trash cities. Yeah, and this is what I bring up all the time, right? So many times people who don't live in New York City or live in the cities, they act like, well, that's just the cities. It doesn't matter. It's coming to you, Chris. It's coming to you. Do you think New Yorkers aren't moving to Arizona? You live in Arizona. You've seen us. You know we're coming to you. We're leaving New York. We're coming someplace. We're going to North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arizona. We're heading to you. So our cities need to be better so we don't bug you. So we can live in our cities and enjoy ourselves in our cities. Yes, absolutely. Let me go down a couple more if I could. All right. It's so bad, Larry, the division. I'm afraid to say anything on Twitter. People threaten you even for mild comments. You know, all the time I see that. I know so many people who will send me notes, direct message. I'll post to my page someplace. You know, they'll let me know, or even tell my friends and my team, I liked your post, but I couldn't say anything. I was afraid. I liked your post, but I couldn't say anything. So I didn't want to click like, but I liked it, but I couldn't click like because people would see that I liked it. Chris, I see it all the time. I wish it wasn't true. I really was. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. All right. I finally saw my first Biden-Harris sign here in upstate about 1 hour ago. I don't think it matters. And I know it sounds horrible. I know it does, but I'm just being forward. The way this system works, and you may or may not like it, depending upon who you are, New York State doesn't get a voice in the presidential election. We just don't. Our electoral votes, 27, if I'm not mistaken, 27, was it 25? I've actually forgotten which one. 20-something, whatever those are. We're going to lose 2 more coming up here because our population is going so low. But whatever that number is, 27, 25, whatever that number is going to Biden. Done. We know that. It's going to Biden. So you can put a bunch of Biden-Harris signs up or none. Doesn't matter. It's going to Biden. I wish that wasn't true. I wish it wasn't so true. Yes. Yes. I'm in Putnam County. I like Trump a whole lot more than the prospect of people like Hillary or Biden getting to office. Cuomo's got to go, and New York City was an S show of pro-liberalism/socialism. I'm hoping that the problem that we have, James, and you're seeing it, I'm sure too, is the people who would fight it are leaving. I am trying my best to not leave, to stay here in Queens, to live in the belly of the beast. Again, AOC is my congressperson. I accept your condolences. So I'm trying to live here and show that you can stay and we have a chance of fighting. I still think that the state is salvageable. For those of you who know New York State, it is an amazing, beautiful state with so much diversity in it. I can't tell you. We have everything from amazing waterfalls to amazing mountains to awesome rivers to awesome lakes to farmland to historical sites to tourist sites to everything you can imagine in our state. It's an amazing, beautiful, awesome state. People love New York. They just hate our government. That's a fact. They love New York State. They just hate our government. James, I think it's still salvageable. I hope it is. If at one point I think it's not, then I'll leave too. And everyone else will go and the state will collapse on its own. I think it's still salvageable. I hope more people will stay. All I can do is stay and try to do the right thing to the best of my ability. And I hope enough people will follow me. And they will or they won't. I'm one person doing the best that I can. I hope others will just follow my example. And I think we'll do it. 20 years ago, San Francisco had its rough patches, but overall still a cool city. Now it's a filthy and disgusting fecal cesspool. How does cities come back from these destructive progressive policies? The problem that we have here, Dustin, it's a very valid question and valid point. Most people are laughing at this. They go, we'll come back. Of course, cities always come back. The one thing that didn't exist before was the internet. The internet is the equivalent of fire. When I say as a technology, it changed everything. It's changed everything. We don't need to be in the cities anymore. It's not required. It's still good to be in cities. There's still advantages to being in cities. But in the past, it was required. If you look back from 2008, up after the crash, 80% of all new jobs came out of 20 American cities. All American new jobs. 20 American cities. If you wanted an opportunity, you had to go to a city. There was no real option for you unless you happen to have a hookup in your local town or your local area. You had to go to a cities, and 20 different cities was the only chance for opportunity, particularly if you were younger or changing your lifestyle or getting married or divorced, whatever the case may be. You had to come to a city. That's not true anymore. And the naivete, the ignorance of government to try to destroy and save us from COVID just reinforced that overnight. There are so many people I know, and some of you, I told you this before, I do a lot of executive coaching now. That's one of my biggest parts of my business now because I can't teach anymore. My overlord, His Majesty King Andrew II, will not allow me to work. So I can't go out and work. So I have to, most of my stuff has to be online coaching. And it's now a huge part of my business. Prior to it wasn't that big. Now it's now one of my biggest pieces for obvious reasons. A lot of people I coach, not all, but many of them are wealthy. And many of them have left the city and they aren't coming back. They're not. If you look at the Upper West Side, people who rent, they're packing up and leaving, just leaving. They're not coming back. They're keeping their jobs. And how I know what's happening is a lot of those people have been asked by their jobs, okay, let's now plan to come back to work, right? When are you going to come back? Are we going to do, full days, half days, 3 days a week, whatever? And they're telling their bosses, I'm not coming back until maybe next year. In fact, maybe never. They're telling their bosses this. They're not asking their bosses. They're not saying, let's see, let's negotiate. They're going, I'm not coming back. So you can fire me if you want to, but I ain't coming back. And the problem is they found ways of being effective and efficient now from their what used to be their summer home is now their permanent home. And they're not coming back. So I don't think this comes back. And next thing, again, our governor is so ignorant and so naive to business. He still thinks that people come back to New York because New York is cool. New York isn't that cool. To your earlier point, a lot of these places have become cesspools. New York's becoming that. So why would you come back? Why would you get it on the subways again? Why? Why would you do that? I'm not going back. I'm not going back to training. Why would I do that? I used to train every day in the city. I'd be in the city doing some consulting, training. Why would I go back to that? Why would I get back in the subway? Do it all over again? Why? I don't have to anymore. In fact, the people who I'm training aren't even there anymore. They're not in one spot. So I can't do it. The entire environment has changed. All of my training now is all done through some form of Zoom call or Skype or something like that where people in multiple areas. It's completely changed. So you don't come back from this. Cities will not recover. Sorry, cities will always recover, just not like they used to be. That's not going to happen. It just isn't. This is different. This isn't the fall of Rome or whatever, and they come back to this because they have to. No, not going to happen. Absolutely. Yes. I'm pulling for New Yorkers. If New York falls, so does America. I think that's true, right? If New York actually collapses, if that actually happens, as I said before, as New York goes, the rest of the country does follow. That's true. I don't think New York will fall. I just think it will never be as strong as it was. It just can't. Yes. Our overlord, Doug Ducey, just opened bars, water parks, and gyms. I guess that's good. You have a more benevolent dictator. Good for you. You're lucky. You have a better one. I don't. Escape from New York is no longer fiction. I know. I gotta start calling myself Snake Plissken. That's gotta be my new nickname. Absolutely. So, all right, guys. I want to say thank you so much for today. I gotta run. I gotta prep for my for me to taking off and doing my run. I'm out here trying to do the best I can, trying to make things work well. If you want to help me out, please head on over to patreon.com/sharpeway. Help me out to the best of your ability. If you can't, I get it. COVID has hurt a lot of us. No worries if you can't help me out. Instead, like, comment, share. I'm going to be off until next Wednesday. My next show will be next Wednesday. I'll be doing my AMA next Wednesday. Guys, have a great weekend. But, by the way, I will be showing all of my stops, 15 stops in the next 5 days. Yes, I know I'm punishing myself. 15 stops in the next 5 days. They will be live streamed on YouTube and on Facebook. Watch if you can. Always like, comment, and share. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you all very soon.